Hey, it's Ben here, and here in this tutorial we're going to have a look at a couple different things. So I spotted this question a little while ago about how you create this Smash Bros style type in your video edits. So in this tutorial we're going to have a look at a couple different things. We're going to have a look at how we set up the type like this, so how we actually extrude that type out, how we set up the different sizes, so a little bit of type setting, and then we're going to apply a transition, which is going to create this nice little animation between those two numbers as they change. Now, if you have a look at the Smash Bros, or you're familiar with Smash Bros, you'll see the percentages will actually kind of animate and loop around each other. So I've created a slightly simpler version of it, but the effect is kind of the same. So it kind of flashes to white in the transition and then transitions to the next number. Now we're going to be using a couple of plugins for this particular tutorial. The first is the transition, and I'll leave a link for that below. So this transition we're going to pop in between the two numbers here throughout our edit, and you can see it works in a couple of different places quite nicely here to create these quick number animations where you're counting down or moving between different sets of type. And then the other plugin we'll need is the free version of BrettFX's Power Tools. In this we're going to use that for the extrude in this particular way we're setting up the type. So we're going to start with a brand new timeline here. So I'm going to go to File, New and Project, and we'll set up a new timeline. We'll set it up as 1920 by 1080. We'll call this Type Transitions, and we'll leave all those other settings the same. You can copy mine, or if you're working a specific resolution, you can use your own. So we'll set up the kind of typeset numbers first and the transition, and then look at how we get that all set up and animated and positioned. So we're going to come into our type and generators up at the top left, and we're going into the bumper and opener type here and just grabbing the basic title. And we'll just come across to the right here and zoom into our timeline a little. So essentially we're going to take this basic title and set it up as that kind of number with a percentage all in one type block. So we'll just highlight our type first of all and come up to our inspector. We'll come up to the type inspector and we're just going to type in a percentage here. So I'm going to go for 23.1%. So with that set up, we're going to do a couple things here. We're going to come up to where it says normal here, and we're going to go to our 2D styles and just select this bold style type, which is going to give us that bold look. And we can use different cuts of the type if we want to, so bold or maybe heavy would work quite nicely for this, and that will give us the kind of starting point for this type. So the next thing we're going to do is just scroll down, and we're going to turn on the outline in our inspector here, and you can see we've got this nice little red outline. And actually, just so we can really see what we're doing here, I'm going to increase the size of the type, and we're going to increase the size of that outline. So you'll notice in all these little tabs that we can see down here, we can show and hide the different properties of those. So we'll make this a bit wider. And then the way this kind of set up is we have the number and then the period and percentage kind of as a slightly smaller number to the bottom right. So we're going to select these independently, and then we're going to scale this down. So basically you can see we can scale down these numbers independently of the kind of main number here. And I actually want to drop this just a little bit below the text here. So I'm going to go to my baseline and just drop this down. And then I want to pull this in just below the 3 as well. So I'm going to select my number 3, and we're going to go to tracking and just pull that into the left. So you can see we get this nice layout of the type there. Now I've got the BrettFX Power Tools installed. You can grab this, and we're going to be using under our effects the extrude option for this particular piece of type. So we're going to drag this onto our text, and you can see right away we get that extrude option kind of popping up. So we're going to come to the options for this, and basically we're going to change the angle of our line here. So you can see we get a little bit of a funny thing happening here where, because we've got type on screen, we can't select the on-screen controller, so we need to use the kind of manual angle in here. So I'm going to set my angle somewhere around about here, and that's looking pretty good. We can change also the color of the type as well. So I'm going to scroll down, and we're changing the color of the outline. So basically we're going to click on the color for the outline, make sure you've got that checked on, and then we can choose any kind of different color we want. And actually I haven't got everything selected here, I just selected the 3, so we'll scroll back down with that reselected, and then click here and we'll select this orange, and you can see now we've got that kind of nice setup of the type. So once you've got this type set up, you don't want to adjust the two different elements of that. We want to keep that consistent. So the two elements I'm thinking of are really the big numbers, so the main percentage, and then the period and the percentage sign. So when we actually set this up, when I go to make the next copy, I'm just going to shorten this actually, and then hold down my Option key and drag a new version of that to the right. So what we'll do with this one, just to kind of accentuate the effect, is we're going to go to our outline and click on the color, and we're going to select a different color there. So you can see we're jumping from that orange to the blue. And really we just got this kind of flash of the number changing here, but we need to do a bit more modifying. So we're going to change the percentage here. So we're going to go from 27 to 31, and we're going to make this 31.5. And you can see just by carefully selecting where I'm typing here, I don't need to go and do all that adjustment that I did in the first place here. So now I have the kind of jump from there to there, but no animation in there. So now we're going to go to our transition. So this transition is going to be free to download. I'm going to leave a link to this below, and we're going to come into my test transitions, and it's this slice transition that we're going to use. So I'm going to grab this, and I designed this specifically for this because I couldn't find a transition where it sliced in the right spot for a piece of type or did the right kind of animation and flash to white. So I wanted to get that all in one single transition. So we're going to drag this on, and now you'll see it's going to slowly kind of animate and shake to the next number. Now this is quite long at the moment, it's 1 second long, so I'm just going to shorten this, and let's go and select our transition and then hold down Control and tap D, and we're going to type in 10. So it's going to be 10 frames long, so a third of a second at this 30 frames per second. So now you can see we get that nice flash between the two bits of type. I think that works quite well. It kind of is a nice little quick distraction of that, and we can then duplicate the next number. So I just shortened that and duplicated it, and then we can duplicate this transition at the right length that we're going to use just by holding down the Option key throughout our timeline. So I'm going to come to the next number. We'll go to 57, and we'll make it 57.8. And then again, I'm going to select all my type. We'll scroll down and we'll just change the outline color to a magenta. So you can see now we get those numbers changing. We can overlay this over the top of the video, and we can also add some kind of game effects in there if we want. So I've just downloaded this game effect from SOUNDSTRIPE, and we can see that has quite a nice effect when it now plays back. So we'll just drop that one there. Now the split here isn't quite in exactly the right place. So if you come to your transition, if you want to get the split right between two of the numbers or between the number and the percentage, we can come part way across the transition, and then we can kind of move where that type is aligned. So you can see I can just get that aligned a little bit more nicely so that it's actually in that part of the transition. So I'm just going to move forward here now, and you can see again I can just move that type. Now because we're doing this kind of funky transition between them both, if we don't, when we move this, we don't get them in exactly the right place, then we'll get away with it. We've got a little bit of leniency in the kind of alignment of these, just because there's this blurring and movement in a third of a second, so we can use a little bit of smoke and mirrors to make that edit work. So if we play this now, so you can see we could probably tweak it a little bit more, but that's actually looking pretty good for what we want. Now I've made all these kind of edits on the main storyline. If I wanted to lift these up above a piece of video, then actually there's an easy way of doing this. I can just select all these and use Option and Command and the up arrow, and that will then put all these above there. So now then if I grab this skateboarder, now I've downloaded all this kind of skateboarding footage from a website called SOUNDSTRIPE, which I've grabbed the audio from as well. Definitely go and check them out if you're looking for videos to use on your YouTube channel or commercially in kind of any video editing work you're doing. Then SOUNDSTRIPE has a really great deal for creators, so it's definitely worth checking out. So we're going to drag this down. I'm going to hover over the gap clip there and let go, and I'm going to replace that And you can see now I've just kind of got my skateboarder in there. And if I want to trim this, I can use Option and the right square bracket to trim it from the end, and then we'll find a spot where he scores. So that's almost in the right spot. So maybe we'll just move this back a little bit. Now if I want to move this back without moving everything as well, so I want to kind of trim this, I selected the trim tool here with the shortcut T. And if I hold down the tilde key, which is just below escape on most keyboards, you can see I can drag that. And so basically I want to drag this so that he finishes that move before the number changes. So I'm going to just drag it back a bit more. Okay, so that tilde key is super useful. And we'll move this one back a bit. And I've just tapped the A key to go back to the main tool. So we just need to stretch these out a bit so they're in the right spot. So you can see now, if we play this through, we've got those timed nicely with the kind of little moves he's doing on the skateboard there. So one last thing as well is I want to move this down to the bottom right, but if I do that just by moving the text frame down, then we're going to move it away from that transition. So we'll actually lose a little bit of the transition there. So what I'm going to do actually is select this whole connected storyline once I've got my timing right, and then I'm going to go to File, New, and Compound Clip. And it's going to turn that whole storyline into its own clip. So what that means is that when I now go to my transform tool, and I'm just going to scale this down a little bit and move it down to the bottom right. Let's get this in the right position. You can see now that it keeps the transparency, it's in a kind of group, and basically we can position it down at the bottom right really easily. Now we can still add other kind of transitions in there as well. So if I come in here, I'm going to stretch this out. Okay, so there's another move there. We're going to double click at this particular point on the timeline into our basic title, and I'm going to stretch this out. I'm kind of eyeballing that, and we'll just use the blade tool. So I've tapped B to go to the blade tool, and then A to come back to the select tool. And now we'll just make this 63. I'm going to highlight all of this and come down and change the outline color, and we'll change this to, let's go for a yellow. We'll close that, we'll come back, and then because we've stretched that out within our compound clip, we can go back and we've got some more media that we can stretch this out with as well. So now we can hold down the Option key and duplicate this little sound effect here. Okay, we have missed something in here. Oh, we forgot to duplicate our transition. Perfect. So you can see we can really flexibly kind of move this around. I think in the Smash Bros kind of layering, there's a little flame coming out the side of it. So if we wanted to do something like that, we could come back up to our bumper and opener and our basic title. And then if we do Control Command and the spacebar, it's going to bring up our emojis. So we've got our emojis in here, and in here I think we've got a flame. So just using the search across there. So we could drag this in. We'll close this up, and we'll increase the size of this. And then we can go to our transform panel to kind of rotate it and position it, and we'll just drop the layer behind that type and we'll stretch that out. So now we've even got that little flame behind there, which is not the same as the Smash Bros flame, I think the Smash Bros flame is kind of one single color, but that's kind of doing the job for what we need here. So basically we can increase the size of it, we can also kind of move it around and position it and get it in exactly the right spot where we want. We could also come down to our color effects here if we wanted to, and use something simple like the colorize option to colorize that flame to make it a single color. So if we come into our video effects here now, you can see we're kind of mapping it to a single color. We can change that color, keep a bit of the flame in there, but change the color intensity so it matches what we're looking for. And then for the other example I showed in the beginning, all I've really done is the same type of thing, but with text rather than the numbers, to kind of split those areas of type. We've got another kind of countdown sound effect. Also from SOUNDSTRIPE. So I hope these little examples have been useful in terms of kind of how you can really play with the type and settings with some simple transitions and kind of use of effects. Definitely go and check out the two plugins that I have linked down below, and I'll see you on the next tutorial. And in the meantime, do let me know if you have any Final Cut Pro 10 questions, and good luck with your edits.